Hi guys, I just wanted to do one more quick recording of me going through these last two problems of the exercises that I didn't get to go over with you guys because they weren't on my whiteboard. And then also just two more examples of finding the slope from the slope equation. So for this problem, we need to find the slope first. So I'm going to write number one, find slope. So that's the first thing that we are going to do from this graph. And remember that we find the slope using the equation m, which is slope, equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And remember that requires us to have 2 points on the line that we're trying to find the slope of. So right away, I'm gonna use this point right here and this point right here for the points that I'm going to use on the line. So my point here is negative 7, 2. So that's one of my points, negative 7, 2. And then my other point is negative 6, negative 2. Negative 6, negative 2. And again, I said that you don't need to worry about the order that you put these points in. You could put negative 6, negative 2 first, and you could put negative 7, 2 second. It doesn't matter. The point is that you're using 2 points on the line to calculate the slope. So I'm going to label these as x1, y1, x2, y2, because remember, coordinate points are x and y. So we have the first value is our x value, and the second value is our y value. So that's why we label them as x and y, and we add the 1 and 2 because we're using 2 points on our graph. So now I'm going to take my y2 value, so I'm going to write m equals negative 2, and I'm going to subtract from that negative 2 my y1 value, which is 2. And then on the bottom of my equation, I am going to put negative 6, because that's my x2 value, minus negative 7. Now, I'm going to carry out the subtraction of these two problems. So this gives me negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. So I've got that. And technically, this down here is negative 6 plus 7. And negative 6 plus 7 is positive 1. So on the bottom of this slope fraction, I've got 1. So technically, my slope is negative 4. So I'm going to start to write out my equation in slope-intercept form. Y equals negative 4x. And I'm not really sure where my line is going to cross my y-axis, because here's my y-axis. It's probably going to cross way down really negative. So I'm going to add a negative mark here. And I'm going to solve for my y-intercept, b, by using the equation y equals mx plus b and using one of the points that we found on our line. So I'm going to use negative 7, 2 as the point. So I'm going to plug in 2 for my y value equals my slope, which is negative 4. And we're going to multiply that slope value by negative 7 because that's my x value in the point that I chose, plus b. And remember that I'm solving for b. So first I'm going to multiply negative 4 by negative 7. And remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm left with 2 equals 28 plus b. And let me just confirm, 4 times 7 is 28. Yep. Okay, now I'm going to subtract 28 from both sides of my equation because I'm trying to get b all by itself. So when I subtract 28 from 2, I get b equals negative 26. And so I'm going to add that into my equation. So my equation is y equals negative 4x minus 26 because my y-intercept is negative. So remember, my slope-intercept form tells me two things. It tells me my y-intercept, or the point where my line is crossing my y-axis, and it also tells me my slope. So that means how far up and over or down and over I need to move from each point on my graph to the next. So that is what my slope-intercept form tells me. And I just found the slope-intercept form of this line by firstly finding the slope, and then secondly, I used a point and the slope to calculate my y-intercept. So that was the second part of my my process here. Find the y-intercept. And so we did that there. Okay. So that was just another example that we've already gone through of the way that you can calculate the equation of a line. Let's move on now and look at, whoops, I went too far. Oh, I started at the wrong one. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. So we just did for number 4. I'm going to come back to that number 4 there. And I want to look at number 5. Number 5 says a line goes through the point 8, 3 and has a slope of 4. Write the equation that represents the line. Now remember, we said that we can write the equation of a line in 2 ways. We can do it using 2 points on the line, or we can do it using a point and the slope of the line. So we're going to do that right now. So remember, we want our equation to look like y equals mx plus or minus b. So we're just going to say plus b. And we're going to use that equation actually to determine our y-intercept so that we can write our equation, the equation of this line that we can't see, in slope-intercept form. So remember, I have a coordinate point right here. It is the x value and the y value, okay? So I'm going to plug that y value in for the y value in my equation. So I'm going to say 3 equals, and my slope is 4, so remember my slope would be 4x. But since I have an x value, I'm going to plug that x value in for x plus b. And I'm going to solve this equation for b. So 4 times 8 is 32. So I have an equation that says 3 equals 32 plus b. Now, since this 32 is a positive, it's being added to the right side of my equation, I'm going to subtract it from the right side of my equation, meaning I'm also going to subtract it from the left side of my equation. So 3 minus 32 is negative 29. So that means that my y-intercept, my b, is equal to negative 29. So now I have all the information that I need to write my equation in slope-intercept form. My equation is y equals 4x, because 4 is my slope, minus 29, because negative 29 is my y-intercept. So that is my equation of my line. I'm done. That's all we had to do. So now I would like to go over just 2 more examples of us finding the slope of a line for those of you who might be confused about the way that we do that. So I know that we just went through equation number 4, or I'm sorry, we just went through number 4 and we found the slope of the line, but I just want to go through it one more time so that you guys can see how we use the slope formula to find the slope of a line. So remember, the slope formula is m, meaning slope. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I want to put a star here because the slope formula requires 2 points on a line. You have to have 2 points on a line in order to use the slope formula. So we're going to find 2 points on this line. So here's one right here, and here's one right here. And it's most helpful for me if I write out these points. So my points are negative 7, 2, negative 7, 2, and my second point is negative 6, negative 2, negative 6, negative 2. Now remember, it doesn't matter the order that you put these points in. You could put negative 6, negative 2 first, and negative 7, 2 second. It doesn't matter. This is just the way that I chose to do it today. So I'm going to label these, since this is my first coordinate point, I'm going to label these as x1 and y1. And since this is my second coordinate point, I'm going to label these as x2, y2. And I'm going to use that equation that I just wrote out to calculate my slope. So I have m equals y2, which in my case is negative 2, minus, I'm always adding that subtraction sign, minus my y1 value, which is positive 2, divided by my x2 value, which is negative 6, minus, I'm keeping that subtraction sign because I'm always subtracting, minus negative 7. And I'm carrying that negative with the 7 because the 7 is negative. It is not positive. So I'm going to carry out the operations in this fraction. So negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. And negative 7, or negative 6 minus negative 7, actually becomes negative 6 plus 7. And that equals 1. So I can say that the slope of this line is negative 4. So if I were going to represent that in an equation, I would say y equals negative 4x. Because remember, the number in front of x is the slope. So that is how you calculate the slope from a line, when you can see 2 points on the line. I also want to go over with you guys how you can calculate the slope if you're just given 2 points. So we're still going to use that slope formula, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I really want to show you guys that it does not matter at all which point you choose to be your x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. It doesn't matter at all. So I'm going to go in this order first. So x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, following my equation. So I have m equals 3 minus 5 over 5. I'm sorry, no, that's not right at all. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Over 2, my x2 value, minus negative 4. Okay, so 3 minus 5 is negative 2, so I've got negative 2 on the top of my slope fraction. And remember, when we're subtracting a negative, we're actually adding. So I've got negative 2 over 6. And I can simplify this, because 2 goes into 6 3 times, to negative 1/3. So negative 1/3 is the slope of my line, even though I can't see my line. So I would write my equation as y equals negative 1/3 x, because that is the slope of my line. Okay? Now, I want to show you that it doesn't matter the order that you put these numbers in to calculate the slope. So I'm going to change my order. I'm going to choose to make this x1 and y1 and this x2 and y2, and we're going to go through and solve and show you that it doesn't matter. So I still have my slope formula, which says m equals y2, so I've got 5 first, minus y1, which is 3, over x2, which is negative 4, minus x1, which is 2. So that means 5 minus 3 is 2, and negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. So I again end up with that negative 2/6, and I can simplify that to negative 1/3. So I'm still saying, no matter the order that I put these coordinate points in, that the slope of my line is negative 1/3. So I would still write this as y equals negative 1/3 x. So hopefully that helps you guys a little bit in using the slope formula to calculate the slope of a line from either a graph or just from 2 coordinate points. So remember, in order to use the slope formula, you need to have 2 coordinate points. They can either give you those 2 coordinate points, or you can get them from the line on the graph. Please email me if you have any questions. Your exit ticket and problem set are posted for you guys. Please don't forget to do those. Thank you.